West Virginia Attorney General Patrick Morrisey, who supports the ban and is also running against Democrat Joe Manchin in the Senate race there, and Mike German, a fellow at the Brennan Center for Justice, which represents Muslim Americans impacted by this travel ban. Gentlemen, welcome. Great to have both of you here. Mike, just go back to the president's simple question. We have to know who's coming here. And his argument is that from these 5 countries at this moment, their vetting system isn't effective enough to ensure that they're not allowing people who wish us harm to come.
So, as you mentioned, this is the 3rd version.
Yeah.
And he made very clear from the very beginning that his purpose for instituting this policy was to ban Muslims from coming into the United States.
But there's a huge Muslim population, many countries that are not included in this ban.
Absolutely. And
so if he really wanted to do that, he'd have to ban all of them.
Absolutely. This is an ineffective policy. I'm not saying this was an effective way of doing it, but it's ineffective to accomplish what he wants, and also ineffective security. And dozens of national security professionals signed on to an amicus brief acknowledging not just that this would not improve security, but it would actually harm security.
All right, so the president's whole take here, and the Supreme Court ruled that whatever the president said along the way is not an issue to them. They look at the letter of the way this is laid out, and they see it as 5 countries that are on a temporary ban until they can prove that their vetting system works.
Well, I think it's very clear that the president acted within his authority all along, because he has the ability under both the Constitution and the statute to engage in a process to vet aliens that come into the country. And as you properly pointed out, this recent travel ban only had the 5, and there are probably another 45, 50 Muslim countries that were actually not part of that process because their procedures were determined to be strong. The president, I think, has acted consistently all along. The Department of Homeland Security has gone through an extensive vetting process, and the plaintiffs were not able to poke holes in that. This is the right decision. President Trump has stood up for national security, and I think it's a good day for our country.
Mike, you spent so much of your career trying to keep this country safe. You feel confident that Yemen, for example, has an airtight system of vetting people to make sure that people who want to come here from Yemen or the Sudan, that they aren't here to blow up a building?
I would never argue that there is any country that has a perfect system or anywhere near a perfect system. But if we look at who has actually been a threat to the United States, it's people who have come from England. Richard Reed, the shoe bomber. It's people who have come from other countries that have nothing to do with this ban. So if we're talking about security, let's focus on those very few people who are actually posing a problem and not impose a hardship on the many thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who are totally innocent that aren't trying to harm America or actually trying to help America.
So your main argument is that it's not effective, that it doesn't make us safer.
The main argument is that it's unconstitutional in that it has a negative impact on our religious liberty and the rights of Americans to have their family members.
The word Muslim is not even in the letter of this.
I think you go back to what we talked about a little bit earlier. A small subset of Muslim countries were actually included. And one thing you're seeing is that if countries get better vetting systems and information sharing, they get removed from the list. So I think that's one of the reasons.
Iraq is the example that was in the original order, is not in this order.
That's right. And that shows thoughtfulness on the part of the executive to make sure that it's implementing the law focused on national security interests. So I think that should be what people talk about today, that this administration is bent over backwards to do this the right way. This is the 3rd iteration. There's no surprise that the Supreme Court upheld what they did today. I think it would have been dramatic if they had actually gone the other way, because if you think about the plaintiffs' arguments, they would literally limit the president when you have an epidemic, maybe an Asian flu epidemic or a potential national security risk, which is emanating from a country. Their approach would limit the president's authority to protect our nation, and that's not proper.
It's clear that the justices that voted in favor of this went by the words that were in this document and applied them as they saw them. Gentlemen, I got to leave it there. Come back. Thank you so much.
Hey, guys, thanks. And www.patrickmorrisey.com.
You're not going to pull out the hat, are you?
No, not today. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you very much. Great to have both of you with us tonight.